And welcome back to Washington Commanders Insider. Today we're talking about the most recent injury update around the Washington Commanders. We're also going to be looking at some initial keys to this upcoming game as the Washington Commanders get set to take on the Philadelphia Eagles in the NFC Championship game. And so let us start with the Washington Commanders and the major injury update that we have. And so it looks like that Sam Cosmi is going to be out for the rest of the playoffs. Unfortunately, Sam Cosmi has actually torn his ACL, so he's out for the rest of the playoffs. And so that is very unfortunate for the Washington Commanders because I think that this offensive line has certainly been very dominant really throughout the season. And I think it's also starting to really heat up here in the playoffs. We know what type of challenge we're going to get with the Philadelphia Eagles on the defensive side of the ball. But now for the Washington Commanders, we're now trying to figure out, who is going to step up for us? Is it going to be, a player like Michael Dieter? Is he going to be the player that steps in for Sam Cosmi? Is it going to be Trent Scott? Is it going to be Chris Paul? That is something that we will see hopefully the answer to very soon, as that is going to be a key aspect to the Washington Commanders in this upcoming game. And so let's go ahead and start with the first initial key to the Washington Commanders beating the Philadelphia Eagles in this NFC Championship game. And it starts with stopping 26. And I think that is going to be a very big key for the Washington Commanders. And if you don't know, we're talking about 26 as in Saquon Barkley. The Washington Commanders really need to stop Saquon Barkley. Going back to the loss that we had in Philadelphia where we got beat 26-18, Saquon Barkley just literally went off in the fourth quarter. And I think that was very much a game the Washington Commanders certainly could have had and might have had Saquon Barkley not got those two scores late. He had 146 yards in that game. And so he was averaging a 5.6 a carry in that one. And so that is a game in which the Washington Commanders certainly wish they could have back against Saquon Barkley towards the end of that game. And so, I think when I look at this, the Washington Commanders have really gotten better as a defense, I think, throughout the year. And I think that they're playing some of their best football right now. And I loved the way that they attacked the Detroit Lions last week. And I think that those same principles are going to be true against the Philadelphia Eagles, meaning that you're going to have to be really disciplined in your running lanes, and you cannot get out of you can't get out of your running lane, because with Saquon Barkley, looking at that game against the Rams that they had, there was just, it's a one step in the ground, and it's just, if you don't stay disciplined, stay in your run gap, next thing you know, Saquon Barkley is gone for about 40 to 60 yards down the field. So I think that that's something the Washington Commanders cannot do. And it's also, too, the ability, I think, to generate some negative plays out there. The Washington Commanders did a great job against the Detroit Lions as far as, I think, setting the edge for the most part, even though that there were some gash runs in that Detroit Lions game. But it is the ability to set the edge and really to set the line of scrimmage. And I think that is something that the Washington Commanders are going to have to do. In fact, in that game against the Eagles, we gave up 228 yards in that one. And in the game in which we won, we only gave up 211 yards in that game. And so, look, the Washington Commanders, they're going to have to cut down the yardage, I think, some more, because even in that win that we had against the Eagles, Saquon Barkley still had 150 yards and 2 touchdowns. Now, a lot of that was in the first half. But after that, the Washington Commanders really clamped up on them. And so, look, they've got the tape. They know what to do. So the first thing is stopping Saquon Barkley. Next up, I think the Washington Commanders are going to have to really stay true to their identity. And what do we mean there? That is staying on the football field offensively. And I think really going ahead and just dominating as far as the time of the possession is concerned. Because in this game against the Eagles, in which we last won, the Eagles actually dominated the time of possession 36-18. we had the ball 23-42. Generally, that hasn't worked out for us when the other team actually dominates that. But because our offense is so potent in clutch time and we're okay with coming back like that, we're able to get into situations where I think if we get the ball and we have the last possession, it's something that we can certainly steal. And so with the Eagles, in this game in which they won again at home, they had dominated the time of possession in that one, 33-04 to 26-56. And so I think that if the Washington Commanders are able to really keep the Eagles on the field, right, you're able to really work on their defense and keep their offense off of the field. I think that this is a situation where the Washington Commanders put themselves in a great position to win this football game. And so, lastly, I think key number three is that the Washington Commanders are going to have to really get off to a good start. I think that the one thing that has really worked out well for us here is that the Washington Commanders have done a great job in these last couple games against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and the Detroit Lions as far as establishing the tempo and getting up the field. Now, I know that, generally if we've gone for it on fourth downs and we didn't convert, and then they went back down and scored a field goal or whatever the case may be, the Washington Commanders have been able to respond to that. But the offense has started off well. And I think that that's something that the Commanders are definitely going to have to do, in this game against the Philadelphia Eagles. Because when we look at the start of the first quarter against the Detroit Lions, when it was 7-3 there in the first quarter. So that's the situation where the Washington Commanders, again, got off to a good start. Obviously we didn't punch it in, but it's getting off to these good, fast starts. I think that it puts a lot of pressure on their defense. And it's something that the Washington Commanders, I think, are going to need against these Philadelphia Eagles, because the Eagles, generally with them, they've started off slow. And so the Eagles, if you can jump on them early, you get it going, they start off slow, there's a chance that you put a lot of pressure on that offense, especially with what is going on with conditions and everything like that, which is certainly going to play a factor. We'll talk about that. I think that really you put yourself in a good situation in this game. And in fact, when we look at the Buccaneers game, look, even though we were down 6-0, we had a lot of success really driving down on the Buccaneers defense. And even though we didn't score, it ultimately worked out for us because we wore that defense down. And so that's the same thing, I think, with the Washington Commanders getting off to a good start. You really establish that identity. You're really going to start to wear them out early. And I think it plays out really big for you as the game goes along. So anyway, let me know in the comments what you think about this most recent injury update around Sam Cosmi. And also, too, just looking at the initial three keys, which is, stop Saquon Barkley, it's get off to an early start, right? And then it's also to just kind of dominate as far as the pace and play of the game and making sure that we dominate the possession staying on the field. So anyway, I'll see you guys on the next one, and go Commanders. All right, peace.